Hey, welcome everybody. It's Wednesday. It's time for another awesome episode of the Leadership Toolkit. Thank you so much for taking your time to tune in and join me. As you know, each week I get involved. We get into business leaders' heads and we get into their business, if you will, and we talk about all different verticals of business. We talk to entrepreneurs and creators and business people and leaders and all kinds of different perspectives and opportunities. And we talk about what their successes are, sometimes what their failures are, how you can shortcut that and not have to endure it yourself. And today's no different. This is actually my 2-year anniversary episode, which is pretty awesome. And I've turned it into a tradition here that each year that I'm on the air, so this is episode 104 of the Leadership Toolkit, the guy that absolutely inspired me and also kicked me in the ass to get this going again, my best friend in the world, Mr. Matt Koenig, joins us on the show again today. Matt, welcome to the show, man.
Bro, it is such an honor to be like on the anniversary show with you again, dude. I love this. I love that you're doing this because you've had some amazing guests on the show. And dude, people are just... They're growing and they're learning how to lead, man. And that's so cool. Like, what I love is your show goes a lot deeper than the, 50-second YouTube shorts that everybody's trying to learn how to lead from.
Sure.
It's been great, man. It's been great.
Well, thank you so much. And seriously, it's an honor to have you back on the show because you were on episode number 1. You were on with me at a year and I think maybe once or twice in between. And then here we are at 2 years. Yeah. And little history for those of you that might be unfamiliar. You know, I've done podcasts for years, and then I went through some real trials and tribulations in health. And Matt has stayed a through and through true friend through life's up and downs. And along about 2023, I'd been going through just some struggles and some depression and like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what that. And he's like, dude, you know what to do. He's like, you got a voice, you know how to do this thing. Here's what you need. And I have this, it's funny because I had this podcast outline. And because I've done, leadership shows and sales shows and motivation and all those things, Matt. And it was funny because I remember it like plain as day. You and I are going through a conversation and you're like, dude, you've got the outline, just use it on yourself. Right. And go figure, hey, it works. Right. So here we are 2 years later. So if you would do me a favor, besides Matt being my friend, he is an unbelievable entrepreneur. I think he and I first met in the auto industry. He's been, in sales and marketing. He's run RockStar events, RockStar designs, now RockStar, I would call it RockStar CRM. I mean, he's an outstanding entrepreneur, business person, leader, and a good friend. So Matt, if you would just share a little bit of your background, who you are, what you do, and what's that journey.
Oh, dude, it's so funny because, as you're talking about the RockStar everything, it's so funny because the way that whole brand started, and I got to give props to one of my other closest friends and brother from another mother, Chris Spear, back in 2016. He and I were partners in the first ever Spanish automotive classified site in the U.S., Buscador de Auto. I was doing video email stuff, text marketing stuff. And Chris wanted to put on a conference because I spoke at NADA, Toyota Learning Labs brought me in. I guess to give people a backstory, gosh, I got in the automotive industry in 1994 at 19 years old. So this is my 31st year, I guess, in this. Or I wasn't quite 19 yet. I was 18. So I got in the automotive industry at 18 years old selling cars. And fast forward time, that's how I met Chris. But I worked in dealerships for a dozen years. Then Cars.com hired me, and I sold their product, and then I was a national training manager for them for years. And from there, Edmunds.com recruited me, and I'm the reason people can shop for cars on Edmunds.com now. Nice. And it's funny because I look back, and ever since I moved into a leadership role in the automotive industry, everything I've done has been teaching people how to communicate better with customers, whether it was selling Cars.com products and helping dealers realize, look, customers just, they don't always trust car dealers, but they trust a third-party site. So helping dealers understand that and how to merchandise better to customers, to shifting gears in my own companies and helping dealers communicate via SMS, now AI, things like that. So everything's revolved around helping people communicate better. But in 2016, Chris said to me, he said, hey man, we really should put on our own conference. He's like, you're speaking at Toyota Learning Labs right alongside Facebook and Google. You're speaking at NADA. You're speaking Digital Dealer, Jim Ziegler's conferences, all these events. We need to put on our own. And I said, absolutely not. This is a horrible idea. And I don't want to do it. And Chris said, dude, we got to do it. And I said, no. And I shut it down. And then one day, Grant Cardone is on Meerkat, which back then used to be like live streaming, before live streaming was normal. Mm-hmm. And Grant is all of a sudden, my old Twitter handle was Koenig Co. And Chris yells to me from the conference room and he says, hey man, Cardone's talking about you. And I'm like, oh, uh-oh. Like, what did I say or do stupid online that Grant's lighting into me? And now I had met Grant a few times. I actually had the privilege and honor of being trained by him and his former GM, I think it was Steve Gardner, maybe. I don't remember Steve's last name. I think it was with a G. Way back when he was still in Massey Cadillac doing his training. But I learned how to I got leadership training from Cardone back then.
Sure.
And the dealer group that I was with used him a lot. So I got to know him a little, but we weren't exactly friends or anything, and just got to know him a little. And he was online. He was like telling people about something I did on Twitter. And back then, anytime someone would follow me, I would just shoot a video and send it to him and say, hey, I just want to say thanks for following me. I really appreciate it. And let me know if I can ever help. And that was it. And Cardone's like, let me show you guys what Koenig goes do. He's like, he's doing this. If you're not following him, you're an idiot. And I was like, holy cow, that's awesome. And I watched my follower count go from like 800 to 5,000 in 15 minutes. It was insane. And and then I signed into Meerkat because I'm like, I want to listen to this. And he goes, oh, he's coming on now. I'm going to cameo him in. And I was like, okay. So he pulls me in and we just start talking, having a regular conversation. And he was so generous. He goes, dude, I want to do something nice for you because what you're doing is helping people. So you name it and I'll do it. And God bless him if Chris Spear didn't go. Sitting next to me, he goes, ask him to keynote our RockStar conference. And like,
so he's like off screen saying this?
Yes, sitting next to me in our conference room. And like, so the funny part is because we were talking about conferences and I was like, no. And Chris like, dude, you have this like RockStar like edge. He's like, we could call it RockStar conference. And I was like, no. And so he yells that out. Ask Grant to keynote our RockStar conference. Now, mind you, we had nothing other than him asking and me going, no. And Grant goes, done. I'm in. I'll do it. What day? And we didn't have anything. And Chris randomly yells out a date that was about 6 months in the future. And it just happened to be Grant's birthday.
Oh, no.
Goes,
that's awesome.
Oh, he goes, that's my birthday. And he goes, and that's my present to you. He goes, when we get off this live stream, bro, have your people call my people and we'll get it done. Live stream ends. And I looked at Chris. I go, you just became my people. Call his people. So I didn't have people. Like, I'm not at Grant's level, right? And so Chris calls, talks with Jared Grant. They all work it out. And Grant comes and he keynotes the first ever RockStar Auto Conference. Absolutely.
Yeah, I recall that.
Yeah, 2016, Kalamazoo, Michigan. He flies into that little itty bitty airport, brings Elena, Sabrina, and Scarlett. Captain Ryan Secco flew him in. We get him a birthday cake. And dude, he was so generous. He took pictures with everybody there. He keynoted for about an hour. Then he did about another 45 minutes of Q&A. It was just like a super blessing. And that kind of kicked off the RockStar brand. And we did some conferences after that, which you spoke at. Two conferences later, the first one we did in Vegas, you came and spoke at, which was awesome. And that's where you and I really started building a really good friendship. So that had to be 2018.
2018.
Yep. And so it was just it was just really cool, man. So that's where the RockStar brand began, was there. And back then I was like, a little off the rails too. So like, it wasn't just RockStar cool. Like Chris and I were living the RockStar lifestyle, right? We had, like, Chris ended up, I had a big house that he shared with me. And we just acted like idiots and partied all the time. Like, we lived the RockStar lifestyle. Like, we didn't trash hotels, but man, were we dumb back then in a lot of ways. But we got to meet a lot of great people, and it helped get a vision of seeing, like, where the automotive industry was going. And
Mm-hmm.
we've always been people that were like, how can we go after something that's 5 to 10 years down the road and get in early so that when everybody else is finally jumping on the trend, we've already got an established tool. And that's kind of where we're at now with AI, right? Like in the last year, everybody and their brother have been jumping on like, oh, AI. And it's like, yeah, we got on that trend a year and a half before everybody else. So now while everybody else is playing catch up, we have AI that's having great conversations with customers, setting appointments, and closing deals, and like closing deals for appointments. And so, yeah, man, that's just like I've as an entrepreneur, I would say I've had a pretty blessed life, but also I've always been willing to take risks and lose everything. And I mean, I've experienced those things that nobody likes to talk about. When COVID happened, we had a big event planned in Las Vegas, and
Yep.
the Friday before Vegas closed, our last speaker and last attendee canceled, and it literally killed the business. It was the end of the RockStar Auto Conference, RockStar events. All of that came to a close in March of 2020 because of COVID. So, I went through in 2020, lost every single penny. And when I say lost everything, house, car, you name it, gone. Like I put everything into that business and it collapsed. And I
Sure.
went, uh-oh, we have to rebuild and started all over again and started back with text, as you know, text lead generation and text marketing in the automotive sector. And now we have clients all over the world who utilize our text marketing and lead generation products through Easy Text Marketing. We have clients all over the world that use our artificial intelligence products, and they use them with high level and click funnels. Some just use them on their website just for like fully autonomous chat bots to answer questions. And man, it's just been a really cool run and a cool experience. And we're about to do some more fun again and start. We're starting. Ooh, we're starting to rebuild, but
Uh-huh.
yeah, we can talk about some good leadership stuff because
Well,
Anthropic just got had a big article come out about the way AI is trying to take over and writing its own code to protect itself from being shut
disabled.
down and retrained. Yeah, it's pretty fascinating, actually.
Well, so here's a few things I want to lean into before we go, because like I mean, you and I talk every day because we're friends, and so one of the things that is crazy, I've always prided this show on like, oh, they're organic conversations. I mean, that's what we have anyway.
Yeah.
The one thing you and I, when we started talking, gosh, I don't know, last week, it's like, hey, you're on the 2-year anniversary and so forth. You said, hey, let's talk about how AI is impacting leadership. And I want to
Mm-hmm.
do that. But before we get there, here's a couple of things that I want to ask, because, I met you a little before the RockStar stuff took place. Like we were connected online.
Yeah.
I'm more, and then you're right. I mean, I got my first break speaking at RockStar in Vegas. And I remember,
I didn't realize that was your first break, dude. I just knew you were great. And I was like, I got to have Mike on stage because he is better than everyone at running BDCs and marketing. Like he's the best. We need him on stage.
well, thank you for that. And I think I'd participated in some panels and I'd participated in local stuff, but like what I viewed like the first break was that, that was the first time someone actually took a chance, which has afforded me other opportunities, which is awesome. But one of the things I'm curious about, and so thinking back to 2016, and you're saying, hey, we're launching this conference. We got Grant coming to the first thing. We're doing this. Knowing what you know now, fast forward, because it's 10 years. And depending on how you look at it, it's either, man, that's 10 years ago. That's a long time. Or as we get older, we were talking earlier, that's only 10 years ago, bro. and so knowing what you know now, what would you have done differently in 2016 at that first conference when you were ready to launch? Because you, as long as I've known you, you always have been a risk taker, and it pays off. You're like, yeah, let's just go for it. We're going to jump out the plane, build the parachute on the way down type of deal. But knowing what you know now, if somebody's deciding they want to start that thing, what would you do? Maybe what would you do the same, and what would you do differently?
That's a really good question. Here's what I'll tell you I would do differently. If you have a family, don't jump and build the parachute on the way down. That is just, well, here's why. I'm not saying it can't work, but when you have a family that you provide for, the reality is you're taking other people on the ride with you, right? So you've got to just make sure they're all in on it, right? I've taken a lot of risks, some out of necessity, and some just out of, man, going balls to the wall because I'm like, no risk, no reward. Let's do it. So the
Right.
thing I would do differently if I look back then is everything that Chris and I did for that first event was very last minute. Like we didn't know what we didn't know. So we didn't promote it properly. We, uh, we didn't like, we had a great group of speakers, by the way,
Hmm.
all locally known other than Grant though. Like almost all of them were just coming up in that first event. They were just getting like they were known in smaller circles, right? And so I
Sure.
think for that first kickoff event, if we were smart, we would have pushed it back 6 months and done a lot better promotion. Now, what would I do the same? Here's what I'll tell you. As we move forward, the next couple events, we made some very common, like part of what made Rockstar cool was that we didn't care if you were a sponsor or not. We said right out of the gate, if you suck at speaking, you're not going to be on our stage. Like if you don't deliver value, you're not going to be there. We don't care how big a check you write. And then about 5 events in, we realized like we needed these sponsors, and we failed our audience just like every
Mm.
other automotive conference fails their audience to this day. And that is we let people who wrote big checks still speak. And we shouldn't have. We made a very bad mistake in doing that about 2 years in. And if COVID hadn't have killed it, it would have murdered itself because of that, because we got
Interesting.
dependent on sponsor dollars. And it's part of the reason, like, you don't see me speaking at any conferences anymore, and you don't see me sponsoring any at all. Like, we did a sponsorship at NIADA a couple years ago
Sure.
because our focus is independent clients. It was when we launched our automation before we went full AI, because independent dealers just don't get any love from the vendors. So we hit that
I
focus. But
feel that.
even in doing that event, I looked at it and I went, I got invited to a 20 group. And when I went in there and started sharing with these dealers, they were so hell bent on doing everything the same. I said to myself, I'm I don't want to invest in people that don't actually want to grow. And it, like, on my own dime and whatever, like, yeah, it just pivoted so bad. So for me, like, the thing I do different is because I've toyed with the idea of putting on a Rockstar event again. Every
I've
couple months,
wondered if you
I
have, and I
want
kind of
to.
hope you would.
I want to, but here's the thing: it's expensive as hell. Like, it really is.
Sure.
Like, the one we had in Vegas at the Vidara, the room for one day was $13,500. That didn't count food. That's just the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Vegas is like where dealers always like to go, right? Because it's fun, whatever. I've toyed with the idea of it, but if we were to do it again, here's how I would do it. I would do it as a retreat. It would be very
Mm.
high dollar, and it would include the food. It would be like at an all-inclusive resort. And it would be a couple half-day sessions and some excursion experiences. And here's why: because I think the real ones will invest in themselves, and everybody else just likes to come. Like, like, different phase in my life when we were doing Rockstar events, man, my language was just bad. Like, it is what it is. And I'm not a perfect person. You'll hear me, like, I'll slip up now.
Sure.
But my buddy Andy Buck hit me with it, and he's like, "Hey, dude, no one's gonna get mad if you're not dropping F-bombs." But it's funny, I realized the next time I spoke, when I wasn't like F this and whatever, I noticed who the real ones were and who weren't, right? And when we were no longer just like telling people, yeah, just come to the event for free because they were buddies, we noticed who didn't come. And I was like,
Mm.
man, when you start to get a little bit of recognition, you quickly learn who are real friends, who are actually real business like relationships, and who what are those fish that cling to sharks, man? They just eat all the leftover scraps. I can tell you this: about 80% of the people in our circle were the scrap eating shark clingers. And at first it was heartbreaking, and I'm so grateful now, because those are the same people that every week, hey man, I'm struggling with the dealership. Can you give me some advice? And then they don't follow it. And I'm like, why are you wasting my time? Now I have clients, like I had a client the other day that reached out, and I'm like, we have a 24/7 support team. But this client reached out directly to me with something so silly and I'm like, did you reach out to support? And they're like, no. And I'm like, would you? I'm like, I bill at $500 an hour is what I bill time at. $300 an hour for people that are friends that I like. And I'm like, I like you $300 an hour. I'm like, take this the right way, but at the rate you pay, you don't get me to stop, drop, and roll when you've got a fire in your business. And so like, there are things
I feel attacked because I think it was me that called you.
No, it wasn't you. And it actually wasn't anybody in automotive. I just want to be very clear. It was a non-automotive client. But the whole thing arose, and this leads right into what this podcast is all about: good leadership. Yeah. This is a great couple, and I love them. They are just sweet humans, right? And they're in like a real estate mortgage, like reverse, like they do some crazy cool stuff that, man, I've never even heard of. And it is mind-blowing what they do. But they brought on an employee who had a great resume. Oh, I know how to build websites, and I know this, and I know that. And this lady just literally popped a sentence into ChatGPT that had a buttload of misinformation, and like sends it to me. And I'm like, yeah, go to support. Like a staff member, I don't know how you got my direct email, but don't ever use it again. Hard stop. And I reached out to her employers, and I was like, hey, your people, they don't email me, period.
You needed to have them call your people.
Well, exactly. And so,
Chris Spear.
So the funny part is, though, then I start looking at their employees' transcript of conversations with my people. And the way she was talking to our support team, I was like, oh, no. We'll just call her Karen because that name fits for this.
Okay.
I'm like, no, Karen. You will not communicate that with my team. So I reached out to her employers, and I said this as a leader. I said, I don't allow anyone to talk to my team that way. So here's the deal. The next time she does, you're fired as a client if you don't fire her. And they're like, what? I go, I'm going to be very clear with you. You don't pay enough money. You could pay me 10 grand a month, and I won't let your person abuse my team. So here's what I want to make clear. You need to have a talk with your employee, and you need to step up as a leader and let her know that doesn't work, and it's about to cost you a business relationship that makes you over 6 figures a year. Because I'm going to fire you as a client if your staff mistreats my team again. Is there any way I can say that nicer to you that will help it make sense?
Help with clarity.
And she said, she goes, no, that's pretty clear. And I go, and listen, I'll happily refer you out to somebody else because I care about you guys, but my team won't take that abuse from your employee. Sure. And they were like fully understood. And then they actually followed up with an email, long email. They're like, hey, we sat her down. We let her know this. We made sure she deleted all your contact info from her phone or her computer. She only will talk to your team. She will never be disrespectful to him again. We appreciate everything that you do for us. We're so sorry it happened. Now, here's the deal. These aren't everyday conversations. But stuff like that wouldn't happen if they, as leaders, communicated with their people of, here's our expectation of you. Here's how we operate in this business. Here's how we talk to people. Leadership sets the example. Now, I know this couple, and that's not how they talk to people. But the example is also set by not giving people clear expectations, right? And if you don't give an expectation, how can you hold someone accountable to it? So that's like good parenting 101, let alone
for sure,
like business 101. So it's kind of like off the rails of where we were going with stuff.
That's okay. I'm going to recap because this is how I love this. This is how we do, man. That's what makes this show fun, and that's what makes these leadership conversations fun, because I really believe, Matt, this is what people need to hear and understand, and there's not enough of that. They go, oh, hey, you're a good salesperson, boom, you're a sales manager. Oh, you're a good marketer, boom, you're a marketing manager. And so they give you that manager title, they give you that leadership shop, but they don't give you the leadership training and have real conversations like this. So here's a few things. First off, I've put this on the screen a few times, but I want to make sure people see it. One, check out rockstarinfo.com, and you can set up a demo with Matt and check out his current project with, I mean, the CRM, the texting, the AI, it is phenomenal. I do have it on my websites. We have it on our company sites and so forth. Phenomenal.
Thank you. And
Secondly,
we do
yeah,
give people, by the way, a full CRM. We give them
yes.
when people don't pay for the CRM with us. They pay for our artificial intelligence, and we actually give them the high level CRM, which basically saves them $6,000 a year. Like, because we give them the version that's got like full API access and all the good stuff. So yeah. So
And
I
then
just want to be clear
also,
about that.
if you want to connect with Matt personally, I won't give you his phone number, but I will give you his LinkedIn. So if you think he's awesome, you can connect, go to linkedin.com/n/real Matt Koenig. It's Matt with one T. So it's RealMattKoenig. So you can connect with him that way. So here's the recap that I want to hit on. And I always like to refresh this because I want people to write this stuff down, and I want sometimes people to read between the lines. And the start of the question was, hey, what would you do the same? What would you do differently? And then that led us down a whole other path, which I'll recap too. But the same and differently, here were the words of wisdom that I picked out of that. One is, if you have a family, don't jump and build the parachute on the way down. You do have to plan. And I think that's very relevant because everybody has hopes and dreams, and your hopes and dreams may be within the current business that you're in as an employee, as a middle manager. There are all kinds of things. I don't know what your dreams are as you're listening to this podcast, but whatever that dream is, as you want to further it, it's important to plan. And I would say, and again, reading between the lines, even if you don't have a family, you have to care for yourself. So make sure you have some form of plan when you're jumping. 2, you said push the time out farther than you think you need. And so I think that's very relevant because so often, like I've heard it said, what do they say? People underestimate what you can get done in a year, but overestimate what you can get done in a week. And so you think, oh, I'm going to be able to knock this out in a week, or I'm going to knock this out in 30 days. And it's like, if you think you're going to do it in 30 days, give yourself 3 months. If you think it's going to be 6 months, like you said, push it out to a year. So push it out further than what you think, because we get so hype and so excited about something that we overestimate what we can do in this immediate time frame. But truly, you do underestimate what you're going to be able to accomplish in 6 months or a year, or especially 2 years from now.
Very true, man. Very true. And to tag on that too, like, I want to be clear, like, I don't want to discourage someone from leaping, right? Like, sometimes you're in a situation where it's like, if I stay where I'm at, I'm going to compromise my reputation and my integrity. And then when I leap, no one's going to follow. And so there are some people that it's like, it's now or never, right? But that being said, you and I were talking about this before we got on the podcast, as we're getting older. And time feels different as you get older, right? So when I was in my 30s, man, 6 months felt like a lifetime. But Dara and I, my wife Dara, which you know her, but for people that are like, who's Dara? My wife. We were listening to something, and it was really interesting because they were talking about perception of time. And I never thought of it this way, but like for me, I'm going to be 50 in October, which is why I need Just for Men to get this beard back to black.
Be 50 in November, so you're much older than me.
I know, that's right. Respect your elder.
That's right.
So like, but at 50, a year is like literally what? It's like 2% of your life, right? Like that's it. But if you're 10, a year is like 1/10 of your life. It feels like to a kid, which it just all of a sudden that's how it clicked when I thought of it from like a child's perspective. If you're a child and you're a 5-year-old and mom and dad are like, next year we're taking you to Disney, it's like that's 20% of their whole life they're waiting for Disney. If you're 50 and you're like, next year we're going to Disney, it's like, boom. We were just talking the other day. I'm like,
I feel like you're just there.
It's already June. Like, Darren and I was talking, we're like, oh my God, we got our 5-year wedding anniversary coming up in 2 months. Like, this is insane. We're like, we look back, we're like, we've been together since 2017. Like, oh my God, we've almost been together 10 years. Like, this is nuts to think about.
But well, I mean, like as we were talking, it was like, when you were doing your first RockStar, you have 2 ways to look at it. It's like, oh my gosh, that was 10 years ago. Or now we start to say, gosh, that was only 10 years ago, right? You throw the only in.
It's like now as people are taking entrepreneurial risks, right? And they're trying to start their own thing. I think there's some common mistakes that are happening. One mistake is they're not acting fast enough. Because right now, especially if you're moving with technology, it is evolving so quickly
Mm-hmm.
that if you don't move, you're gonna be left behind. So in some cases, I'm telling people like, man, the thing you want to do, if nobody else is doing it that way, do it now. Because someone bigger than you with a bigger wallet's going to do it. Give you a great example.
Sure.
When I launched into AI, a very good friend of mine who is so freaking loaded, dude. Like he's got Kentucky Derby horses, like, and I love it.
Nice.
Like, and he's 20 years my senior. Okay.
Okay.
But just I just don't want to say his name just out of respect.
Sure.
But just like one of the best guys, East Coast guy, always shot me straight. When I was 300 and something pounds, just at my fattest, I was in Vegas speaking at a conference. He was out there sponsoring. We're both East Coast time zone guys back then. So 5 a.m, I'm out on a walk. He's out on a walk. We run into each other and we're talking. And he goes, dude, he's like, man, you're so disciplined at all these things. Why are you not disciplined at getting healthy? You're so fat. Like, I was like, ouch, it would hurt if it was, but I know him. And I was like, that's in love, right? So this same guy, we hadn't talked to him about a year or two, man, just since moving to Tennessee and life being crazy. And I just, man, God put him on my heart. And I call him like, hey, bro, how are you? Like, let's catch up. We start talking. He tells me, he's like, yeah, man, I invested like $500,000 in this other AI company that is like a competitor who, when I looked at their stuff, I'm like, Jesus, Mary and Joseph, our AI kicks theirs AI's ass so hard. And I'm like, if I would have just maintained my friendship and had these conversations, if I would have been smart enough to think, here's this idea I have, who can I network with that can accelerate this idea? He would have written me $1 million check because of how close we are. But now he can't, because he'd be writing a check to compete with a company he invested in. So I say this, 2 things. One, if something is new and you have an idea that others don't have, you need to jump fast.
Okay.
But here's the other thing. If everybody's doing it and you're like taking the Bill Gates mentality of, I can do it better, find partners that can help you strategically do it better so that when you take the time to build it out or to bring your idea to fruition, make sure you can do it right. Like, you either have to be first to market and grab the attention so that you can build the revenue up and then grow it, or you need really smart strategic partners that can help you finance doing it bigger and better long term. I always lean personally. I like to be able to scale and pivot quickly as things change. I've had business partners in the past. Chris Spear was one, and he was fantastic. We had another business partner together. He and I were partners with somebody else. It didn't go well because that person decided they wanted to shift the amount of control they had in the relationship. So that left me with a little bit of wound and fear of having partners in a business unless they're a close personal friend, which that one wasn't. Right? Like, if a Mike Phillips was like, let's be partners tomorrow, I'm like, Mike Phillips, dude, we're family. Like, trust done. Whatever your idea is, I'm your partner. I'm in. Like, no. Where do we sign?
Yep.
Bingo. But other people, like, so I'm one of those people. I go, I would rather stay small, make a great living, and I don't ever have to be known again. 10 years ago, all I wanted to do was be known and be a celebrity in the auto industry, and let that be what brought me recognition and finances, et cetera. So yeah, new entrepreneurs, if you got an idea nobody's doing, do it fast. If you've got an idea that you're seeing other people doing it, but you're like, we could do this better, look for partners that can finance helping you do it better. That's what I would say. I see it. And stop jumping on the AI bandwagon of thinking that you sell AI just because you go lease somebody else's platform and do it. It's happening all day, every day.
Yeah.
High level CRM. That's why we give high level away, but we don't actually use their AI. Like, I see multiple businesses that are selling to auto dealers. And when I look, I'm like, I look at the chatbot and I'm like, that's high level's chatbot, but and high level's AI. It's like, it's so limited at what it can do. Their voice AI is good. But the problem is, if you don't know how to prompt voice AI, you're just a turd floating in the toilet. There's not a nice way to say it. And I'm seeing all these people selling it into automotive, and I'm like, I'm looking at there, and I'm like, you don't even know how to prompt properly. You don't know how to train voice AI. So all these young entrepreneurs that are working, especially in dealerships and other stuff, going, I'm going to quit my job and sell AI to people. stop it. Because people like me are going to walk into that and go, let me show you every area that they're not doing it right for you. And this is why they can sell it to you for a couple $100 a month. It's because it sucks and it doesn't work and they don't know what they're doing. So.
Oh, absolutely. So here's a couple other things that I took out besides I love the tidbits, act fast and do it better. That would be, your two things. Here's two other things that I pulled out of there. And you've said this a couple of times was, leaders have to build connection with others. And I'm going to shift gears on you in a minute because I do want to talk about one other thing we've been talking about, but leaders build connection. And so like you were talking about your friend and you were saying, hey, leaders treat people well. Leaders give clear expectations. If you don't give clear expectations, then people make their own expectations and usually they suck. Yep. And so, leaders build good connections. The second thing, even though it stings, and I appreciate you sharing it, Matt, because you're like, hey, I had a good friend. They would have invested, but I hadn't stayed in communication with them. If you're going to go in business with somebody, it's more valuable to build on the relationship than it is to build on a check.
Yes.
Just a check alone, if that makes sense. Is that a fair assessment of what you're saying?
100% accurate, bro. And I'll be transparent with your listeners, man, because I'm not sharing anybody's name, but early on in a business partnership that I had with two other people, and one of them, like we made a very poor development decision collectively. We all three of us were responsible for it. We made it together. We had a guy that built our original platform and he did a great job, and he had a good job with the retirement and everything else. And we said, hey man, leave that, come with us. We will make you a partner. We'll give you 25%, like as a partner in this. We're ahead of everyone by at least 5 years on this. And if you come on board with us, our 5-year plan was like, we were going to sell it to like a big vendor, right? And it would have easily been a $20 million flip if he would have come on board, but he didn't. So we reached out to one of the larger automotive website builders and said, hey, can you do this classified site? And they were like, yeah, of course. Well, they didn't know what they didn't know, the different levels of that. So $118,000 in 90 days later, they couldn't, and it crashed. And we went from 60 clients to 12 clients in 60 days. We lost nearly $1 million between the three of us in less than 1 year. And so that hurts, right? It stings, especially because it's our own money. We weren't borrowing any.
Sure.
Well, the one partner was a put money in investor first.
Sure.
And so he put it in, and then we sell a bunch of clients. And so now it's like, boom, we got revenue, we got this, right? We got salaries, we got whatever. And I had an ego so big. And this is what entrepreneurs need to, God, please realize this. You are not as effing cool as you think you are. And I surely wasn't. But I was more known and recognized than my other two partners. And so we each had distinct roles. Your role is to write checks and keep the money balanced. Your role is to sell to dealers, pick up the phone, and my role is to speak everywhere and build this brand.
Right.
All on the same
Brandify it.
Well, when you lose about $1 million between three people it wasn't even a year, it was like half a year. Like you start freaking out. And if you can't keep your composure, stuff falls apart. So of course, animosity starts building. And one day we have a company breakfast together. And the one partner had been stirring the pot with Chris a little bit. And we sit down at breakfast and he just goes, well, I know Chris is on the phone calling clients all day, selling stuff. And I know what I'm doing, putting money in. He goes, what do you even do? Like what value do you even bring to the table? And now I would have handled that a lot better. I would have said, let me explain, right? Nobody would have known about this if not for the one who came up with the entire idea and then brought it to market and gets on stage everywhere because of it, right? And I would have said, so that's what I do. And so now we need to collectively figure it out. But instead, what I said at that breakfast meeting was, hey, remember when Apple brought in that guy from Pepsi and they got rid of Steve Jobs? And then that guy from Pepsi ruined Apple? He goes, yeah. I go, in this story, you're the guy from Pepsi and I'm Steve Jobs. So you can F yourself. And by the way, you're paying for breakfast. And I got up and walked out. And the next morning, the bank account was empty. The salaries were gone. And he went, here's a lawsuit. We're going to all three fight over this company. And for the next year, I lost more than what most people make every year because of immaturity and because of choosing the wrong business partners. And here's the problem. He and I both had the same amount of ownership, 35%. And then Chris had 30. And so the challenge was, because I was on the road all the time, he was whispering into Chris's ear. And it's funny because in that meeting afterwards, Chris actually leaned with him. And I get it. Chris and I are still like family. He apologized. He's like, man, I'm sorry. He's like, I knew you. And he goes, from everything my eyes saw, I just bought into the crap. And he was just like, dude, but this goes back to that, making sure you're aligning with the right people. When I first had the idea, I didn't have the capital. And a buddy of mine was like, hey, go talk to this friend. And I'd worked with the guy before, but we had never been friends. We just never were. But when I came to him with it, I said, here's how much money, and we'll be 50-50 partners. You write the check, I'll do the work. And he said, okay. And from that moment, he had equal authority. And I wasn't smart enough to say 51-49, which is what I should have said. And then we actually had an opportunity to sell the company for 7 figures, 6 months in. And my ego wouldn't allow it. And so I will say, partner with the right people, but God, you're not as cool as you think you are. No matter how good your idea is, there's a high likelihood someone else has had the same idea, right? Or a similar idea. And if you let your ego get in the way, you're going to ruin everything as an entrepreneur. So you got to be humble enough to go, I don't know everything, but here are my ideas, and find people that love them and go, I want to get on this ride with you. Someone smarter than me said this. If you're a leader and if you call yourself a leader, but no one is following you, you're not a leader. That's it.
It's similar to a John Maxwell quote. I think he says something along the lines like, hey, if you're a leader and you're climbing the mountain, but you look back and there's no one following you, you're not a leader, you're a hiker.
He's not wrong, man.
Right.
He's not wrong.
So here's, man, I still have so much more. We're already 45 minutes in, but I'm going to ask this one because I think this is really valuable. And I think this question hopefully will lead us to something that is super valuable for leaders and entrepreneurs. Because being in a leadership role, being in an entrepreneurial role, being in a business role, every one of those takes varying levels of risks. And actually, before I ask this too, Matt, I want to tell you, thank you for being so transparent. Like I know you're my friend, but the fact, like, going through and walking through some of this I haven't heard. So it's, and I have to imagine it's a little bit painful for you to be like, oh man, I got to go do this and talk about, bruising the ego. I think people need to hear that. Like, as valuable as you are, you're, it's still, like, I think you put it best, that you're not as cool as you think you are. So be careful. I think that's a really good way to say it, and
it's honest,
we all,
man.
yeah, well, and we all hear, like, gosh, I was looking at a short video the other day, and somebody said, well, you always have to be your biggest fan. That's true, but even so, sometimes the fans get upset with the center stage, right? Sometimes the fans get upset with the person that's out there doing the thing. So,
and they're only your fans as long as you're doing what they want you to do. And that's what a lot of people don't realize. Everybody's trying to be an influencer, and it's like, the moment you say, so like, we're starting a church, dude, people that know me and especially hung around with me during the RockStar days, they're like, dude, the church will burn down if you walk in. And
it's one of those people look at me and go, you need Jesus. You don't need to be talking about Jesus.
Right. That's why we're doing it outside. No, just kidding. Because lightning strikes are but the funny thing is, it's like, everybody wants to be like, I wanted so bad people to like want to follow me and like on social media and all this stuff. And it's like, people only follow you. I'm learning, and it seems to be my experience when I start watching every influencer out there. As long as what you're saying affirms how I already feel or how I want to feel, I'll follow you, right? We all do it. Politically, people do it. In business, we do it, right? I love Alex Hormozy a lot. I think he's so cool, right? He always has his nasal strip on.
Yeah.
He looks like he just came out of the gym. He's shredded like I'd like to be, but I don't want to put in the work to get there. But it's like, I like 95% of what he says. By the way, I've never heard him say something that wasn't valid or true, but
Sure.
I only like 95% of it because I don't want to do the other 5, right? But everybody's striving to get people to follow them as a leader. And I think that's the biggest problem in leadership is we're trying to get people to follow us. So we're doing things that we think our followers want instead of just being an authentic leader and going, this is what I believe is the best direction to go. These are the models I think are the best way to do it. And then the real ones go, I like the direction you're going. I like the methodology you've got. I'm going to choose to follow you. Right now, almost every leader I'm watching, when they start doing their influencer shite and start talking about that, it's always saying stuff that they know that their camp will get behind. And I'm like,
Sure.
So what happens when that becomes irrelevant, though, when you have to have a hard conversation with them? That's why I like Hormozy, because he's like, you're not going to like this. But one of the things he said that I took to heart when we started with RockStar AI stuff, he said, no matter how good you are or experienced you are at thing A, if you're starting thing B and nobody knows you, you haven't earned the right to ask anyone for money. He goes, so you got one of two things. If you've got hard costs, you got to come in at a low dollar and you may not make any. Or if you can do it, you need to let them sample it for free and prove yourself. And I'm going like, man, I got 20 something years in the auto industry at that time. Like, text marketing's proven. But I'm like, we still to this day give a 30-day free trial. And that's at my expense because guess what? Not everybody knows us. Not everybody knows what we do. So a dealer can come on. And by the way, we now charge more, way more than what your store pays. I've just decided like it's double that, but I'm just going to be honest. Like you guys don't get the Mike Phillips deal ever. But here's the thing. I still give them the first month for free. Because I'm a firm believer, if I can't show you real results in 30 days, then you just bow out. Like, plus it gives me time to see if we're on the same page. So just when it comes to leadership, I think people need to stop trying to appease the masses and lead with your values and what you believe. And then people who share those values and share those beliefs will want to get on the train and go for the ride with you.
That is so valuable. And I think you're spot on. It's just so good. You're spot on. So here's a couple of things that I want to remind people of. One, check out rockstarinfo.com if you want a free trial of what Matt's doing. if you're in the automotive industry, or I know you work with speakers. I know you work with lots of other
local businesses too.
Local businesses,
flower shop, restaurant, coffee shop, tattoo. We have tattoo shop clients. Obviously, I have a few of those. Yeah. So literally locally, I have.
So check that out. Here's one question I want to get answered before we go today, because this is something I picked up early on, and I've watched this because I know who you are, but then you said it, and you don't even know what I'm about to say here.
I don't. It's concerning.
That's why people know the top of my head. I write these down. So you were winning. You came into business, you took the risk as an employee. You said you were with cars.com, you were with Edmunds, you were doing these things, you're winning. You started RockStar, you're winning. You invite Grant Cardone, of all people, like he comes and speaks at a conference for you. You're winning. At one point, or at more than one point, because you shared this, you lost.
Yeah.
And you said, man, I lost and I lost big. And then you went in. Here's the statement that I find so fascinating and so powerful. Your statement was, okay, so I asked myself, well, what are we doing next? How do we rebuild? How do you get to that point, Matt, of, okay, I'm winning, I'm losing? Because it's very easy for people to say, oh man, I lost. Okay, well, I got to do something else. Well, I got to try the next thing. Well, that didn't work, so I'm going to go back to being an employee. Hey, this thing didn't work in this relationship, so I'm going to find somebody else, or I'm going to find a different thing. You said this live on the show earlier, and I keyed in on it, and I waited until now to ask you, because we've been through a lot of conversation. I want to know how you get to that point. When you get kicked in the teeth and you get your ass handed to you, how do you get to the point of that question? Okay, now how do we rebuild?
Great question. By the way, I love Ben's comment. He said, people say trust is earned. Wrong. You have to give it for free first. I love that, Ben. Great feedback, bro. I love it. And he's a leader and a hiker. So here's the truth that a lot of people won't say. Success also has luck plays into it, and so does blessing. Like just plays into it, man. So here's the truth. One, desperation. If you're desperate, you'll finally get humble. that's just truth. So for me, when I had to rebuild after COVID,
Mm-hmm.
I don't think I've shared this on your show, but I may have shared this with you. But so Dara and I were supposed to be married in August of 2020, and in March everything collapses, and it starts collapsing around me. And by May, I had lost every single thing I had. Like all I had was some software that was like a live streaming deal and a funnel building software that I had connected with some guys in India on that wasn't yet making any money. And so I called my fiance at the time, who's now my wife, and I said, hey, listen, I just lost everything. Like I have nothing. Like this is a terribly humbling call. Get all choked up sharing it, obviously. But I was like, look, you didn't sign up for that. So if you want to walk away from this relationship, I would understand it and I won't be mad at you because I've got nothing to my name. House is gone. Car's getting picked up. I'm going to go buy a car for a couple $1,000 so that I have transportation. I'm like, but I am royally effed right now. And thankfully she goes, idiot, I wasn't marrying you for your money. I'm like, well, that's good because I don't have any. All I have is a big pile of debt now, like credit cards. Thankfully, I had some with some big limits that I could live on for a minute, but I was like screwed. And so that whole, like I started trying to build up something with like a sales funnel program back then, and it wasn't working well. And we got married and I still didn't, like, I couldn't go back. Like I even literally submitted a resume to look at trying to go back to like cars.com, Edmunds, and like, but the roles that I wouldn't go back into a sales role because my ego was still a little too big. And I think that God let me get crushed because I needed some humbling.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, holy crap. Like I'm not getting hired, but nobody was hiring either because of COVID. So like nobody was hiring and I had nothing. And thankfully my wife had a 6-figure income. And so the funny part was way back then, I had sold my text marketing business 6 years prior. And because my former business partner that wanted me to be all in on our project was like, hey man, I need you to divest from the other things you're doing. So I sold every other business that I had. And by sold, I don't mean like sold them for millions. I sold them and it was a profitable sale, but I also had like $11,000, $12,000 a month worth of bills because I was like, you know, I had a couple jungle cats, like Savannah cats, like big house. Like I was an idiot. I was living like a 90s rapper way beyond my means. Okay. So, yeah. So anyhow, lose everything. She's thankfully got an income. And I'm sitting there when we were living in Washington and I realized something. I was like, hey, when I sold my texting company, I had a 5-year non-compete and I think it's gone. And I looked and sure enough, it was. And I reached out to you actually and said, hey, Mike, I'm bringing back this text message lead generation tool. I don't know if it's going to work anymore because it's been so many years, but everything I see logically tells me it will. So I want to give it to you for free for a few months. And then here's what it will cost after if you want to keep it. But I need a use case and testimonial. And you took a risk with me back then. And I'll just be transparent with everybody. That risk was a $249 a month risk. Like, but first it was free for the first couple. And then after, like you had shared, you're like, dude, we're making like X amount of money. Like you should charge more. And I was like, nope, I committed that if you did this for me, I will never increase your rate. And on that platform, we never did. Right. And so you ask the question, how do you get to that point where you're like, okay, we got to start over again? The truth is this: desperation. You don't get to that point until you experience humility. And I would say most people take it as a sign of, I just am not wired for entrepreneurship. So I'm just going to go back to work for someone else. And I think that's what a lot of people do. And if I'm being fully transparent, most of those people should have never taken a risk as an entrepreneur anyway. They just shouldn't have. Here's the thing a lot of people don't realize. If you're wired to be an entrepreneur and a leader, you can't escape that calling. You just can't, because you're never satisfied working for somebody else again. Like I've said this a million times, like I would be so unhappy. Even the best general managers I know in dealerships, they're awesome humans. Even the best people I know that run vendor companies that are some good friends of mine, I could never work for them because I would always feel like, why am I doing this work for them to make the money when I could just do my own thing and make all the money? Like, so for me, what it took to get to that point was God had to strip me of everything. So there was no way I could have an ego, because it's like, all I could have was embarrassment, right? It's like, you've lost everything. You've gone bankrupt. Your business has gone bankrupt. You've been crushed. What do you have to brag about right now? Nothing. You're a failure. For all intents and purposes, on paper, you are a failure. So I had to come to the grips with the fact, like, I wasn't as cool as I thought I was. Once I got there, I was like, the only way I'm going to grow is to be humble enough to ask somebody to take a risk with me. Prior to that, I'd walk in, I'd be like, we're doing this for these people. We're doing this for these people. If you say no, I don't care. I'm going to walk next door to your competitor. And if they say yes, it's going to be my goal in life to make sure they crush you. No joke, Mike, literally. I would go to a dealership, offer up our stuff. And if they didn't buy it, I'd let them know I'm literally stopping in the next parking lot. If they sign up and you didn't, I'm going to make sure that they just annihilate you. And like sometimes dealers will be like, well, great, you can go after yourself. And then sure enough, if their competition signed up, we would make it our goal. We would run ads to try and like do that. It was so ego driven. And yeah, I mean, for me to get to the point of going, well, we just got to start over and figure it out. I had to get humble enough to get outside of my head so I could think outside the box and go, what's something I can do that I know will work for my clients and bring them the results that they deserve? I'm proficient in this. I know this will work, but I need somebody to try it out. So I'll eat the costs while they try it out and let's see if it'll work. And when it did, what I learned was stay humble when you approach the next person. Now, some people will go, well, nobody wants to buy from someone who doesn't have confidence. Confidence and humility go hand in hand. And there's a fine line between confidence and arrogance, though, right? But I believe when you're confident in what you do, like I know I've not met anyone whose AI, conversational AI or voice AI does a better job than what ours does. And I'll still say this, nothing's perfect. But I think from everything I've seen, it's been my experience, ours is better than everybody else's. But no one should take my word for it. That's why we give a free trial. Try it out. And if you don't believe it, walk away and it's cool. We brought on a client in New York, and I won't share his name, but when he reached out, he was a referral. And he said this, he goes, listen, I got referred by this guy that's in my 20 group. He goes, here's the deal. I want to try it. I don't believe that it's going to be as great as he thinks it is. And so at the end of the trial, if it doesn't work, I'm going to politely tell you to go F yourself and we'll part ways and we'll be friends. But that's that. And then I'm like, this is the East Coast New York guy. And I'm like, everything inside of me, everything inside of me went like, God, do not just tell the guy, no, don't do it. But I was like, no, I like something inside me wanted to prove myself to him. So I was like, okay, fair. Let's do it. 3 weeks in, he signed up his other store. And he's like, dude, they do a lot of special finance, which we haven't had our AI doing stuff with. And he was like, dude, this is great. He's like, we're going to make this the best freaking AI for secondary finance dealers in the freaking country, man. Like, dude texts me all the time. Now he's like, man, I appreciate you. Like all this great stuff. And it's like, because I didn't let my ego get in the way. I was like, okay, here's someone who's saying, oh, you're going to offer to prove it, then step up and prove it. And I'm like, wow. Like, and because of it, blessing, boom, second store comes in. So yeah, dude, I am trying to make sure I stay humble, but confident. And so I let people know, I think we're the best of what we do, but don't take my word for it. See for yourself. And it goes the same, stepping outside of business, man. This goes the same with when it comes to scripture and Bible teaching stuff. I will tell people all the studying, all the research I've done, and all the wrestling I've done with this. Here's where I lean on this. But you know what? If you can show me something in the scripture that points me in a different direction, I'm open to look. But I'm confident that this is the right way to go. But if you can prove different, my eyes and ears are open and waiting to hear. And so I don't know, man. I've just been a lot happier nowadays by learning to be humble, which is a weird thing to say when you lose every single penny in your life and had to rebuild. But now we're in a great space again. So,
well, and here's a couple of things, and the tidbits that I'm taking from it is, because I said, I love that attitude. I love the fact that you're like, hey, I was winning, then I lost. Just that question. I think it's important for leaders to ask that. I think it's important for entrepreneurs to ask that. It's like, shift from giving up or finding something else to how do we rebuild? I think it's a powerful, powerful statement Matt shared early on. And then I think it's a very genuine answer. A lot of times people look for that. When I ask the question, hey, how do you get to that point, Matt? Right. And then people are hanging on like, okay, I'm going to write this down because I need that silver bullet in case stuff goes
and then
sideways.
I'm like, here's 20 minutes of crap.
Well, but here's the thing, and to encapsulate it, there is no magic bullet. It's just sometimes you've got to take the kick in the teeth. Like you said, you have to hit that point of desperation that drives you down to being humble again.
Humble
and human.
And if I could share one last snippet, Mike, I think
absolutely.
I think everyone should hear this. And I wish someone would have said it to me, because then it would have made me certain that this was my calling way earlier.
Sure.
If you feel the desire to be an entrepreneur and step out on your own, if you can walk away from it, walk away from it. Let me say it. If you can walk away, do it. Because if you can, you weren't wired for it. It wasn't your calling. Somebody said the same thing with church planting. They were like, dude, this is going to be the most painful thing in your life. I'm like, will it though? Because I've experienced some loss. But they're like, if you can walk away from it. One of my closest friends, Jeff, who was our pastor in Washington, we had talked about this, and I said, if you could give me one piece of advice, what would it be? He goes, if you can walk away from it, walk away, because it's not a calling if you can walk away. And I was like, oh, that's solid. Powerful. And we spent almost 2 years like running from that calling of like church planting. We're like, no. We're comfortable in the pews. We're comfortable being seat warmers. We're comfortable being consumers. And then it was like, okay, can't be comfortable. Same rule applies. If you think, oh, I'm supposed to be an entrepreneur, I'm tired of listening to these idiots, they're not smart enough to be my boss. Most of the time we make the leap to starting a business because we're angry with the business we're in. And we take that little saying, like, if you think someone should do this, then you should be that someone. You know what? No, you shouldn't. Not always. Not always. That rule applies if you drive by a homeless person and go, I wish someone would feed them. Man, pull your car over and feed them. Like, that's a different story. But man, someone should create a product that does X, Y, Z. If you don't have a bank account to fund the research and development, you're not that someone. So if you feel the call to be an entrepreneur, or if you feel the call, like, I should be a manager in my employer, like I should be in a leadership role. If you think that, I would challenge you to go walk away from it. Just walk away from it. And if you can stay away, give God thanks that you didn't take that role, because you were not meant for it. If you can't walk away and you're losing sleep at night and you're getting anxiety because you're like, God, I gotta do this. Like, what is going on? Like, it's driving me crazy that I'm not doing it. If that's you, then you're wired for this. And by the way, it will be the hardest experience of your life. You might have a great season. Like, I lucked out. When I started my texting business in 2012, I had come out of Edmunds.com. I had a 6-figure salary. Everything was cushy. Everything was great. Went to work for another company who I won't name because they suck completely. I got sold a bill of goods, grading grass, and the grass was dead kind of deal. But I had started this text deal, right, where I leased a platform for $45, took a risk. I sold 22 clients in the first 14 days. And I had priced this thing at $100 a month. So I was like, oh, sweet. Now I have 22 clients to support at $2,200 of income. I'm still $11,000 short of what I made a month ago. I am screwed. Like, But you know what? I still couldn't walk away from it. Instead of going, I got to go get my job back with Edmunds, or I got to go see if Cars.com will hire me, I went, let me call people that are further down the path than me and ask their advice. And back then, JD, God, I forget his last name. Anyways, I'd reached out to him, and JD Rucker.
JD Rucker. I was just going to say, was it Rucker? Yeah.
Yeah, it was Rucker. And I had reached out to him. I don't know how he and I connected, but man, he just was such a great guy and seemed like such a sweet guy. And I said, hey man, I got this product, I got this thing. Can you give me some advice? And I just want to talk because it's new, and here's what I've done, right? And it's brand new. And he said, here's the thing, you're charging way too little. He goes, here's what you should do. You need to charge $18.50 a lead, or make your price like $300 a month minimum. And I went, okay. So then I started offering it $18.50 a lead, with a valid phone number, or $300 a month. Most people chose the $300 a month unlimited lead deal. A couple of them chose the $18.50. After 2 months, they were like, yeah, no, I want to get on the flat rate deal. And I went, okay, cool. We brought on another 10 or 15 clients. Still wasn't enough income. And then I went, well, I'm just going to keep the lead cost the same, but I'm going to double what the flat fee is going forward. And we bumped it to $600 a month. And at $600 a month, more people signed up than when it was $100 or $300. It's because crazy. Sometimes your price is so low, people go, it can't be good.
This can't be real. Yeah.
And you know what was crazy, man? Because I reached out to someone further down the path, and because I couldn't let go of the entrepreneurial thing. Once I got a taste of like, you eat what you kill, and no one can tell you no, and you live or die by your integrity and your character. Once I experienced it, there was no going back. Like I couldn't let go. And by the grace of God, even when I wasn't walking with him, I was really far from him. I get a call out of the blue from Brian Pash back then. And he's like, hey man, JD told me about this thing you're doing, and tell me about it. I told him, he goes, dude, this is awesome. Nobody's doing this. I want to have you come to the AWAs. And it was like, it was really cool. I won the Automotive Website Award for like new innovative product. Actually, and then we wanted to get with the Spanish deal the next year. But it was funny because people were like, oh, you pay for those awards and it's only people that are sponsors. I'm like, I never met Brian.
Brian's a really good guy.
Yeah, you know what? He's always been a great human to me. And people, in our industry, like or don't like other people, I don't care. But because of Brian sharing that, it was such a blessing. So when I say, like, there's something people have to understand too about being an entrepreneur. One is, if you've got the call, you can't walk away from it. But two is you have to have the willingness to stick through it when stuff sucks, which means if you got to eat ramen noodles and cry yourself to sleep, bro, do it. But if you wake up the next day and apply for a job somewhere, you weren't wired for it, go away. Yeah. Now, some people might have to work a job while they're building it. That's a different story, right? They might be bivocational for a minute. But then the third thing is this. Sometimes it takes a little luck, right? It took luck. It took luck. When I got known in the auto industry, it was purely luck. Jim Ziegler was putting on a conference in Texas, and I applied to speak, and I got to go speak at it. And that was in 2013. My texting product had been out for a year. And 2013, Jim Ziegler allowed me to speak at one of his events, which is where I met very close friend Gary May. Like, love Gary. Gary and Veronica are some of Darren and I's closest friends. We love them. It's where I met Terry, my boy Terry Lancaster. It's where I met a lot of people in the industry, was speaking at his first event. And that was just by God's grace, because Jim didn't know who I was from Adam. So entrepreneurs need to understand this too. Sometimes luck accelerates things. And sometimes when you don't have any luck, it's just going to be harder. The truth is, if you can't stand the fire, if you can't suffer through the hardships, you don't deserve the successes. There you go. That's it, man.
Man, Matt, thank you so much for today, man. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for being so transparent and just sharing some of that humility. Like, you can see it. It's you're a real blessing. You're a blessing as a friend. You're a blessing to other people that are listening to you speak, as you know, and just to be able to learn from you. And I think, just so much good will come out of this episode. So I appreciate it. Hang tight for a minute while I take us out. A couple of reminders too, before I change the screen, do go check out rockstarinfo.com. If you are somebody that is looking and trying to figure out how to engage, with AI and a CRM and to be able to better manage your business, better communicate. Matt said early on, it's all about communication. Check out rockstarinfo.com, reach out to him. Like I said, you can reach out to him on LinkedIn. It's Matt Koenig, MAT1T KOENIG. And so you can find him there. Matt, thank you for your time today and hanging out with me.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it, Mike. And I love you, bro. I really appreciate everything you do.
Love you too, man. You're the official bro. The girls in my call center are always like, "Oh, is that bro calling?" You don't even have.
I love your team, man. You're such awesome people. You have like a great group of people that work with you.
Absolutely. All right. Well, so that is going to bring us to a close. Man, again, just all the gratitude for Matt joining us today. Do me a favor, everybody, if you would share this show out. Throw some thumbs up on it. Share it out with somebody. Most importantly, share this with somebody that needs to hear the message. We talk about affecting people and helping others grow. It is important, to be able to hear this message for ourselves. And maybe Matt's further down the path than you are in entrepreneurship. And you heard something today that you're like, man, that is the best. I'm going to take that to heart. I know I did. I heard plenty of just these tidbits of wisdom and insight that he has to share. But if you know of somebody else that could gain something from it, the best thing you can do, whether it's one person or 100, put it in your newsletter, put it in a DM inbox, send it out to somebody so that they have the opportunity to grow too. As always, that's what we do here on the Leadership Toolkit. We want people to grow. Until I see you next week, everybody, stay great. I appreciate your time, and we will talk soon. Have a great day, everybody.